edition of Shortcuts for Your Soul. My name is William Michael Forrest. I'm a spiritual medium, a channel, and an intuitive life coach. And I just want to say something before we get into this. Every single human being on this planet is a channel or a potential channel for divine guidance and inspiration. Everybody on this physical planet is a channel for light or dark, good or evil. Every one of us is a channel on this planet. This is just the vehicle that we use, right? I was just told to say that before we started. I want to say thanks to my patrons last night for a wonderful patrons only live event. We had Master El Moria, Master Saint Germain, and Master Joan of Arc come in last night to give us some pointers on how to transition through ascension. And they each had really important points. I just want to share the three key points that came from Master Saint Germain, El Moria, and Master Joan of Arc. Master Saint Germain said, it's really important that you align vibrationally to the divine inside yourself. That there's a vibration, a feeling, an energy that you can be in tune with. If you call on Master Saint Germain, what he uses as the violet fire is an alignment vibration to the divine. So you can tune into his energy and have him transmit that vibration to you. Vibrational alignment to the divine. Master El Moria said the way to get connected to the divine is through what he called deliberate silence. So where you actually just remain in total silence. You keep your mind in silence and you connect to that which is not of your mind, of this earthly mind, but to the divine mind in deliberate silence. And it was really fascinating way to explain that. Anyway, they just want me to play these three, share these 3 points with you. And Master Joan of Arc stated that hers was a direct communion with God from birth. She was directly connected with God from birth, and that the connection of trust with the divine was her way. She never experienced pain when she was burned at a stake. She transitioned directly to the divine because she was already connected. So she was ready to let her body go. She was ready to let her body go at that point in time. She didn't want to go, but she was ready to go. Good morning, everybody. We're just going to wait for a few more people to come on live. And today I have with me the energy of Master Jesus, and he's going to discuss the understanding of, did he go willingly? Because this is a question. Now we're in the process of writing this treatise, I'll call it, called the Second Bible, and it's a channel work with Master Jesus and others. And understanding what they taught is different than what they were told. You were told they were teaching. What he taught, what he teaches today, is different than what they taught you to believe that he taught. And again, we're going to go into this a little bit more. But again, I want to thank my patrons for last night and the 3 ascended masters that came and joined us. Also, other announcements. This Friday, we're going to have the Divine Collective, and the subject is going to be all is within you. And this is true for everybody, whether you're a saint or a sinner, whatever labels you want to give it, whatever your expression is. Thank you. He says, whatever your expression is, you can classify it as good or evil, but all is within all. Every one of you has a connection to the divine as equally as a good or a bad person. Everyone has a connection to the divine. Everyone. There's no escaping that reality. It just says, good morning, everybody. Wonderful. South Africa. Yes. Okay. So when I was first guided to do the Second Bible, and I want to thank all of you that submitted questions. Those questions are going to be, for the most part, in the Second Bible, and they will be answered. It is pretty amazing how many of you are interested in knowing the truth other than what you've been taught to believe is the truth. As we know, a lot of what we're taught isn't really true. And a lot of what we have been taught is true. And learning to sort out one from the other is really important. When, as a little boy, I was taught that Jesus died on the cross for my sins. And it was always presented to me as something very heroic. And it was really heroic what he chose to do. And he did not choose it willingly. This is something he's wanted to clarify for a long time. He did not choose to willingly be murdered on a cross. This is number one. He said, I did not willingly choose to physically end my life in that timeline. It was a negotiated condition between three parties that those that followed in the truth and the light would not be harmed, but would be spared in my name. And when I asked them, what do you mean spared in your name? He said, well, they simply followed the principles of the divine that I taught as I understood them to be. And there were others doing it then. The agreement was that I would not, I would not continue to teach, or I could leave and they would spare all of those that followed me. All of those that followed me would be spared. This was not what happened after my physical demise. And please understand, in the death of the body, through what I understand, my life everlasting was available to me, as it is to all who understand clearly that the light that they seek is the light everlasting. That what you have been taught to understand of as God is the light, the everlasting light that is all pervasive. It is everywhere at all times, and very few know of its ways or its workings. But I opened the door to the way of the I am. I opened that door very wide. And those that understand their relationship to that cannot be manipulated or controlled or diminished, who understand their relationship to that. Those that do not understand their relationship to the divine within them, and all of you have this relationship to the divine within you, all of you. But those of you that do not understand this can be misled, abused, and mistreated. And this is exactly what I sought to prevent in the arrangement that I had made with the authorities of that then day. That covenant was broken and has been broken repeatedly since then with many others, such as myself, where bargains were struck and not kept. I went willingly in the sense of two things. One, I knew that I cannot die, that my flesh is not who I am, that the flesh was simply the vehicle through which the word could flow freely to all who could hear and see. I went willingly in the sense that I understood that the freedoms, the rights, and the lives of all others that were following the steps that I laid out would be spared the arm and might of rule, of authority then. This was not honored nor respected. And my life did not end that day, but began in greater earnest from the day of my departure from flesh. I did not go willingly in the sense that I either accepted the bargain or great suffering would ensue immediately. And unfortunately, great suffering ensued immediately anyway. What I gave to you from my Father's store and his way and his truth is the same truth for you and them. Although you may choose to use the truth for your own aggrandizement or for the liberation and freedom of all. But I did not go willingly in the sense that I was choosing to leave my body at that time. I simply made an agreement with two other parties, and myself included. It was an agreement between three. And it was understood to be in fairness to all. But this did not happen. And if you understand the truth, you will look back and see that the blood that was shed in the many, many centuries since that physical incarnation had ended, that the bargain was never kept, but was struck many times subsequently with the same result incurred, that many were murdered. And every war that you have seen and every war you have heard, a bargain was always struck between three. And each time the bargain, where you see there is death and destruction, the bargains were not kept. The string of death and destruction through centuries has been part of the resurrection of truth as much as it has been the destruction of it. But you cannot destroy that which is eternal with that which is not. But there are many of us here now. I am here now in this world. And no gyrations and no manipulations can stop the truth any more than you would wish to stop your own heartbeat. For to stop the light is the same as stopping your heart. You may diminish it, you may change its color, but you cannot stop it. And this is what has been done. The color of truth, which is the light, was changed, but the light is still there. Yes. There are many, many things that you will begin to see and bear witness to in these coming days. But that which you were taught to worship was false. You in the beginning were never told the truth, and the truth is that you worship life and the light, not death and suffering. And they would have you worship death and ennoble death. This is what they have had you to do, to worship suffering, as if it was a necessary function of your being to suffer. It is not a necessary function of your being to suffer. They would have you believe that. And they would even have you believe that they could eliminate suffering from you. This they cannot do either. For you cannot ignore the effects of your own creations. You cannot ignore or nor escape what you have done or what you have done not. You cannot escape. Yes. He really wants to stress the importance that there was no willingness to end his life. He had no willingness to end his biological life. It was a negotiation. Right? It's really important to understand that, and it's going to upset a lot of people. But that's the truth. He made a negotiation with the people that were in charge of the social and financial systems then, and they're the same people today. The same people that are in charge of our social and financial systems are the same people from his day. And a lot of what you're seeing going on now is a different version of what happened 2,000 years ago, when they tried to stop the expression, manifestation of the truth. He says the same process is underway now. The deliberate, and again, a bargain was struck and not kept. And he's saying, this has been done with many. You have experienced many enlightened masters. Even in this, what you call your Western world today, which existed very peacefully then, and existed very peacefully till now, you came and you bargained with those that were here, and you never kept that bargain. And many, since that bargain was broken, have been brought to their father's home prematurely through murder. You cannot call the implementation of death upon another anything other than but what it is. It is a murder. And many have been murdered in bargains not kept in good faith. But the time is coming now where that is over, where the bargain struck will be called to accounts. And the cycle will begin again. What do you mean by that? So few of you understand the scope and reach of your Father's hands, your Father's words, your Father's light. Few of you understand that He is in all things, in all places, in all spaces. That which is true and that which is false are of His shaping. But you may not choose to be both. You must choose one or the other. You cannot express both. You can only choose one or the other. What do you mean by that? Essentially, you cannot choose to be of the light and the dark. You may be one or the other. But that light and that dark are of my Father's making, and each bears its own consequence in its expression. Each bears a consequence of its own expression. One is that you will have life and have it more abundantly. The other is you will not. There is no in-between process. And where you embrace suffering more than you embrace light, then you will suffer. Know you not that the sun and the planets that you call these devices, that they exist in a space and a time in a very orderly fashion because they are related to each other, as you may be related to your brothers or your sisters or your mothers or your fathers. So too do these worlds have a relationship with one another, and even the sun. And that your relationship with each other here on this earth affects this relationship of others. You cannot initiate a cause without reaping an effect. And I can assure you there is an effect coming. It has happened many times since the beginning of Eden. It happened far fewer times prior to that. But since the beginning of Eden, 12 times 12, this has happened. And you will now experience it a 13th time, as you have chosen again to not heed the word of light and life. But love is ultimately the final outcome of the divine. When you understand that you do not lose your life if you find it. You cannot lose life when you have found it. And that life is in you now as that which beats your heart. Last night, El Moria was saying that this process of his ascension, towards the end, he found that deliberate silence, deliberate silence, to actually keep your mind silent, to not think about what's going to happen next or what's happened before, but to literally be in deliberate silence so that you can begin to actually hear the divine within you. This is what Master Jesus says he did when he went up to out into the desert, and he sat for 40 days and 40 nights. There was a process of literally getting differentiated between the personality that the world had shaped for him and who he truly is as a spiritual expression. Very amazing. But to know that so many questions. I know, guys. Hang on a second here. Yeah, there are so many. They understand there is no judgment, nor rage, nor anger on my part. Please understand, my love is unbreakable. It is eternal. It is forevermore. This is what love is. While there was the obvious loss of my physical medium then, it did not prevent the work from going forward. Even though the hand and the foot were pressed down on your hearts and your minds for so long, the light and the truth can never go out within you, can never go out within you. Question from Wei: how quickly can a person achieve the new birth while in the flesh? This question, if you understand the nature of your question, the new birth begins with the second death. And the second death begins when you surrender that that separateness that you hold so fast to. So many of you believe that the flesh and the mind and body are your true nature. They are the vehicle through which your true nature should express freely. But this place of silence, of listening, of being willing to hear, and I speak of hearing not as language that is being spoken, but I speak of hearing as that which is a knowing, that something that is within you that gives you the capacity to perceive and to know, that which gives you the capacity to even hear these words is that which would give you that freedom and liberation that you already possess. Can you not pause and feel this within you? Give yourself pause to feel, rather than try to think or to hear as in language, but to feel that love that is your life, even now as you hear these words. You may hear them through your ears, but they are felt within you. If you can relinquish your need to try and comprehend through what you believe is your body, it is in your heart that you will find this freedom, this movement from the impingements of your personality to the freedom of your soul. The simplest way is to be still, to truly be still, to not let your stillness be disturbed by your memory or your fears. The relinquishment of fear is a very important step, to surrender all of your fear. And this is difficult to do from what is occurring today, for there is much that you are being given that offers you nothing but fear. Much of what you are told to listen to and hear and follow gives you nothing but more fear. Surrender your fear and your attachment to it, and you will know the love that is within you. If there is no fear, then all there can be is love. If there is no love, then all there can be is fear. Please understand that. Thank you, Wei. You're very welcome. Question from Diane. Can you ask Jesus if he is on planet now? He's not giving any, not this time. He's saying, I will not be revealing myself yet. Although I am here, and many of you know I am here, and many of you have called forth that I would be here. But this time, it will be very different than the last time. The bargain will not be struck as it was before. A new light will come forth in this. But the bargains as they were before will not be struck again as they were before. You were given this opportunity to be in alignment, and forgiveness was offered many times. But I will not reveal myself just yet in that sense. Although I speak through many, and many of you heard me speak through many others, but I am here in flesh as well, and that will be revealed in its due time. But first, there are things that are being revealed so that you may know that when I come forth, you will understand the difference between that which is true and that which is false, that you will not be misled a second time. You will not be misled a second time. This I can assure you. Oh, I like that. Thank you. Question from Holly. Are the awakened ones on planet Earth fragments of your own consciousness? There is only one consciousness of which we are all fragments. The distinction to presume that one is brighter than another is an error in perception, for all contain the light equally, though all may not display it equally. One who withholds the light might be considered in darkness. Wow, interesting message for you. Thank you. Question from Drusilla. Is he saying we're not going to make it? He's saying everyone makes it. Everyone makes it. There is none that can leave the Father's house. You may go astray, but you can never leave the life that is the life of life. You can never leave life. You may depart from it in degree in which you will suffer. Again, there are so many in this world now that are so astray in the things of this world that they can get great pleasure out of the things of this world, and that is again a temporary delay. For when they lie in their last breath, they quiver and quake, for they know the truth at that last moment. Thank you for that question. Question from Vertical. Is the meaning of the story of the prodigal son referring to the finding? Yes, it is. Absolutely. He says, absolutely. You must understand, while most truth was removed from what was taught, what truth remained is still true, though most of what was called true is false. Please understand this. Your statement is quite true. Wow. I love that. Question from Rose. Was Eden first timeline on Earth? And no, Eden, what you call Eden and what was referred to in your scriptures was that place where my father and many others came together in true union of a vision for the expression of the divine that was not marred by the need for control or power, but was based in the absolute and complete harmony of all things, much as my Father lives, as always, in great harmony through all things. There is not one thing on earth that was not first established in heaven. Please understand this. But this place that you call Eden was the first in the manifestation of human creation, that all of humanity came together with a united expression of divinity. Yes, there are esoteric understandings and meanings within the stories that you have read, again, many of which are false, but still have grains of truth in them. For anything that would have the truth in it would make you feel greater love and greater freedom. That which would have you fear and quiver is not the truth. The truth will always set you free. But that which would cause you fear is not true. That is a lie. And this is the quickest way for you to distinguish between that which is true and that which is false. That which is true will open your heart to the love. That which is false or turn your head to fear. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat, Drusilla. Really appreciate that. Question from Julia. How best do I keep my energy field strong while feeling coldly so I don't absorb yeah, he's saying you cannot mix good and evil. They are like oil and water. You cannot mix them. You, in your vibrational state of being, if you choose to be in alignment to love and love's expression, and there is much confusion about what love's expression is. Many of you think that it might be a gesture or a certain way you speak in a certain tone that you are expressing love, and that may be true also. But love is a vibrational knowing of your direct connection to an infinite source that gives you life unconditionally, and freely, and that you may offer that love, that light to others. In that you will find incredible freedom, even in earth. But that which would cause you fear will keep you in suffering. But you will never, even in your greatest suffering, be separate from the life that is given to you unconditionally. You'll never be kept separate from it. Wonderful question from Ian. Was his body death a complete body death in the murder? And did he intend to come back so soon? He's laughing. He said, he's come back multiple times. Yeah, I've come back multiple times into this world in different forms. Again, if you understood the truth as it is to truth, you would not believe much of the lies that you've been told. But I can say to you again, that if that which you hear causes you fear, it is not of the truth. If you hear the truth, then that which is the truth will cause you to be in joy. For the truth always sets you free. Fear will never set you free. The truth will always set you free. Love will set you free. But fear will never set you free. Ever. And this is how you remain in what you call your suffering. And those that understand that through your fear you may serve them are very different than those of you that know that the truth and serving the truth will give you life everlasting. But I came back in many occasions over these many thousands, what you call thousands of years. Time is very different from the experience of what you are as a consciousness, as a deliberate, I'll use the term ambassador of the light. That time and space are very different. Matter is very different than what you understand it from the perspective of creation, as opposed to the subjectivity to it through the experience of fear. Your subjectivity to fear keeps you out of the ability to perceive the truth. But I'm here now, and there are many others. Wonderful. A question from Ruth. Wow, he's being asked how does it? He said it doesn't look a certain way to be free of manipulation. He's saying, please understand, you are relieved of all fear in the truth of life, in the truth that there is a love that is your true nature, that when you are in alignment to it, you would not suffer fear to come into your mind or your heart. You are beyond manipulation in the truth. And this is why you have found such great calamity when it comes to war. There is always two things in any war. There is the truth and there is fear. There is no others. There is either truth or fear. And that is what you see, one or the other. And there are those that live by fear and those that live by truth. Those that live by fear suffer and suffer greatly. Those that live by love and truth do not. Even in the departure from the flesh, in your alignment to the truth, there is no suffering. Even when your body suffers, when you're in alignment to the truth, that suffering is relieved. Only in a denial of the truth can suffering be maintained. All suffering requires your alignment to fear. All suffering requires your alignment to fear. And those that suffer will serve those that will offer them liberation from suffering. But your Father, your Creator, would not charge you a fee to relieve you of your suffering, for he will do it freely. You can simply ask him, liberate me from my suffering, and it will be done to you. But many of you do not understand this process, and you turn to men instead of your Father for this relief. Wow, thank you so much. Question from ZB. I have always felt a special connection to you and the Father. I feel calling to stand up for the light as he did. Is it wrong for me to let my warrior spirit shine if it hurts others? First of all, there's great joy in your celebration of the light and your love of its expression. And whether you choose the path of the warrior, I had chosen the path of warrior each and every time. The implements of what you call the warrior for many of us is that of truth and love and compassion. Many of you have questioned, well, is there such a thing as a holy war? And we would simply say to you, there is no such thing as a war in the holy at all. The holy does not suffer war. The holy suffers union and harmony, compassion, kindness, creativity, playfulness, the unity of people. That is holy. That which would suffer suffering is unholy in the sense that it is further away from that light. But again, those that are holy or unholy, each will get their just reward. There is no escaping that. You may delay the events of your own creation, but you cannot avoid them entirely. Eventually, all of you will reap the effects of your own causes. It is why we always encourage, be love, do love, for that is what you will reap in the end. But if you live from fear, then you will reap fear. That is very simple. As love does, so love reaps. As fear does, so fear reaps. Understand that distinction. As you understand, if you think in terms of yourself as being alone, then how could you possibly know who I know? How can you possibly know how free you are if you believe you are alone? You are never alone. And when you come to the understanding that the life within you is the life within you, it is the Father of which I have spoken, then you will start to diminish your aloneness. You start to come closer to that life. Listen to it, not your thoughts, not what the world has taught you to believe to be true, but go inside and know that your beating heart is a continual message from that which made you, saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Listen to me, I am with you. I am always with you. And when you know that you are not alone, you will be free. But in your belief that you are alone, you will suffer with those that benefit from your suffering. Wow, great question. Question from Rose. Why did the Creator choose this time to eradicate the dark and allow it to dwell so long in time and space? You must understand that all these things were made by his hand. He created what you call the good and the evil. Both were created that a plan could be fulfilled. This is not the first time this plan has been unfolded. But each time more awaken, the truth is restored and a new life begins. There is a cycle to all things. Can you not see it in the seasons around you? That this is but one more cycle in a limitless creation? And yes, there is that which made him also. That which you call your God was fashioned by another. But this is something that you are not ready to pursue yet. But please understand that bargains were struck and not kept. And even now, bargains are struck and not kept. You are not alone, but you must not give in to your fears, for most of your fears are not even yours, but were offered to you as delights. Many of you have received these gifts of fear from those playful and exciting sensations that you call entertainment, where you were given the seeds of fear to accept as the truth. Surrender the lie. Surrender the lie that's hidden as truth in your hearts, and return to the truth of your love. Your love is essential for your survival. And when I speak of survival, I do not speak of it as survival of the flesh, but survival of your being. There is so much more to experience in creation than what you see with your senses. Question: how do you master the body and overcome death as you did? Understand, the body is a temporary medium. It is always a temporary medium. Flesh cannot endure as spirit can. But in the recognition of what you are as spirit more than flesh, you have life everlasting. In the recognition of your relationship to that which made you, in your relationship to life, to light, to love. Those of you that live in fear will often repeat the process of what you call biological reincarnation. It's just natural because you're so attached to suffering. But when you are free of suffering, the demise of your body is simply just a recourse of change. You're simply growing and evolving. You surrender the form. And when you understand your relationship to that source, then there is not the pain and suffering that many believe there is. And we experienced this last night when Joan of Arc came through. She said from the moment of her conception, she knew she was directly connected to God. From the moment of her conception, Joan of Arc, Master Joan of Arc, actually. And that at the moment they put the fire to her feet, she said that she was able to leave. And she did not have to endure what the body endured. But she left. He says it's the same with all of us that know. But again, we did not willingly choose to sacrifice our bodies. Again, bargains were struck and bargains were broken. Understand this. Many of you do not understand this, but you have been told to believe one thing, but bargains were struck and bargains were not kept. In all of these instances, with many of what you call your indigenous people, which are also the children of God, please understand, you are all from one father and one mother. Yes. Wow. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay. Anyway, this has been great. I'm so grateful you guys came out. Thank you for the super chat today, Drusilla. I really appreciate it. So this Friday, I hope you'll join me on Shortcuts to Your Soul. This Friday, we're going to have the Divine Collective, and they're going to be talking about all is within you. Why don't you love it? And when I asked them what they mean by that, I said, a lot of people know that God is within them, but they haven't learned how to get into love with it. Master Jesus calls it the atonement, at one-ment, getting into attunement or in a state of oneness with this infinite power. And the Divine Collective is going to be talking about what we can do to actually begin to get into atonement, at one-ment with this power that's in your body right now, beating your heart and giving you what you call your life in this physical world. It's only one part of it, right? But there's a way they're going to show us on Friday to begin to get in touch with that energy inside you that you call your life. And I'm really excited about that. So I hope you'll join me on Friday. And on Saturday, we're going to be having a meditation on, again, atonement. Master Jesus calls atonement at one-ment, getting into union with the divine. He says that we're all already in union with the divine, but the degree of awareness of that is diminished in some and not in others. And those of you that recognize that love that flows into you as life, that you can speak and hear its words and be guided from its wisdom, those of you understand that love, that at one-ment of what I speak, and you live from that, and you do from that, and your being is from that, and it is. Well, so I hope you'll join us on Friday for the Divine Collective. And again, I want to thank you for coming out today, for sharing this. I want to thank Master Jesus for being present. It's a beautiful energy. And I also want to thank all of you for your questions, your concerns. I want to thank my patrons. And again, if you want to support this channel, you can go to my Patreon page, patreon.com/William Michael Forbes. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified. We come live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for Shortcuts for Your Soul. And on Saturday, we have a meditation process called Supernatural Saturday, which is supernatural. It's super and natural to be able to align to the divine. It really is. And I hope you'll join us for the meditation part on Saturday as well. I want to thank you again for coming by today. Much love to all of you, and have yourselves a great and wondrous day. Bye for now.